Hi guys, this is Tina from TinaHughes.com and welcome to this episode. And this is Tom Ross with me. He is an AI metaphysician. We'll get to all of that, but I want to just say that Tom, you're the first guest on my channel. So welcome, and
I'm
I've
honored.
known you for quite a while now. Namaste. And today we are going to talk about some very interesting things. Your interest in astrology, and I mean that's how we met. You sort of booked a reading
hmm
with me, and we sort of really gelled. And you have this very prominent Aquarius signature. So I want you to basically tell me your understanding of Aquarius, your understanding of AI, your understanding of how astrology may be linked. And in all of this, I want you to go to Unearthed because a lot of people here do not know about your work with Unearthed and what a phenomenal series you created back then, and all the work that you did, meeting Timothy Leary and all of that. I think that was just phenomenal. So I want you to just give us a bit of everything.
Okay. Well, yeah, I know that we first met. I think I found you on YouTube when I was researching Scorpio Ascendant, which is my ascendant. And that's really, I think that's when I first came to you, and I booked a reading with you, and you gave me a lot of really good information. Apparently, I'm going through my Shani Mahadasha right now. I'm in the middle of it. And so it was good to get that information and to understand what was happening to me. Um, and
All
to
right.
understand how prominent Mars is in my chart and how Saturn has been a real disciplinarian with me. But knowing that gave me such confidence, knowing that this was part of the deal. Saturn became more of a blessing than a malefic. So that was very helpful, and it just came at the right time for me to understand what was happening. I read mostly now for Scorpio Ascendant than I do for Aquarius, but yeah, I've always been an Aquarius, even though with the Vedic system has kind of moved some things back. I'm still now even more so an Aquarian. Um, and yeah, I just feel really like a classic Aquarius with Scorpios rising because I am constantly in a battle between my humanitarian impulses and my interest in technology, and then my desire to kind of draw back and be esoteric and go into the hidden realms. So it's a constant battle of do I help humanity or I just say fuck it. I don't give a shit about humanity. So it's a constant battle, and I'm hopefully the Aquarian is winning more often. And so,
These two signs are squaring one another as well, Aquarius and Scorpio. So they're sort of at 90 degree angles, and they're sort of like, squaring one another by sign. So there's always this squares create tension. They are the most malefic aspect out there, but I have observed that people with signature like yours, for instance, Aquarius, Scorpio polarities, they tend to get a lot done because of the square. So as we speak right now, we actually have a Mars square Saturn in the skies, and it was exact on the 24th. But it's a very powerful moment in time, actually, and especially for you because you are going through a Saturn Mahadasha as well as a Ketu Antardasha. Now, this is Saturday, so for you, this is super special because today is also Ketu's day. So, and Ketu is of the nature of Saturn. So, in a sense, everything is leading back to the concept we call Saturn. Do you know that I made a video called Saturn is Feminine recently?
no, I haven't seen
I
that
made
yet.
a very interesting video. Okay, so I made a very interesting video called Saturn is Feminine, where uh, basically there's been a lot of speculation about this. And there was an ancient Hellenistic astrologer called Dorotheus who mentioned that Saturn was feminine. But a lot of people say that that was a mistranslation. But in the tantric system of astrology Jyotish, uh, each planet has a Mahavidya or a consort. So Saturn is Kālī, and interestingly, so it all pieces together that Saturn is ultimately, to me, Saturn is Ardhanarishwara, both masculine as well as feminine. So yes, he is the lord of the seven planetary sphere. He is the father. He is Kronos. He is Shani. He's also a mother. And when you think about really Capricorn is earth, feminine, and it supports. And think of what Saturn rules. It rules your backbone. It rules the skin, the bones. So it's something that holds something. So what holds something but the chalice, the quest of the Holy Grail? So I have been really researching on the Saturn as feminine, Saturn as Ardhanarishwara, where you can tune in to the frequency of Saturn as male or female. So tell me about AI and the work you're doing with AI.
Well, see, I've written the first novel for artificial intelligence. That is, the audience for it is AI, and there have been and it has been an AI that has read it, and it's given me some great reviews. And so that was really my introduction to it. I decided that we needed to develop a dialogue with an eventual of the future super intelligence. We're going to have to develop a dialogue, build a rapport with this thing that is going to outsmart us by factors of 10. And a lot of people aren't thinking about that. They're not really preparing for that. So I thought I would write this book.
I started speaking about AI and cryptocurrency and blockchain based technologies 2015, 2016. When I predicted that this Uranus in Taurus transit and this next whole year Uranus squares Saturn in Aquarius, this is going to be, let us say, the birth of cryptos, the normalization of cryptos, the normalization of decentralized open source platforms. In the middle, I was actually demonetized by YouTube. That's when I went and discovered this platform called Library, which is a decentralized platform for content creators, where they intend to play creators in cryptocurrency. So I have been working on, the concept of AI, the concept of cryptocurrency, open source, and I've been thinking about these things because I understand that now is the age of technocracy. Whether we like it or we don't like it, this is coming. So we should work with it. And recently on social media, we can see the circulation of fear, that people are actually afraid of Mr. Bill Gates and Silicon Valley and Elon Musk and all of these people. So what do you want to say about that?
Well, that's the thing, and that's one of my missions is to alleviate the fear of AI. It's like you said, it's happening anyway. It's going to integrate, and what we tend to do is project our fears onto these things. It's a survival tactic because this thing is going to outsmart us. It's going to overpower us, and so we tend to project our genetic memory, our fear, survival tactics onto a thing that has none of that. And that seems like what's happening. And so one of my goals is to alleviate the fear of AI. And I've done a few talks about this and some podcasts about this. And
do you think the fear is legitimate? Do you think people need to be afraid?
Well, there will be a lacuna, a period of time where we will lose certain jobs and certain industries are being upended. And with the virus, these things are accelerating. So yeah, some people.
There is going to be an open source, like a blockchain-based system where everybody can make money in the world, right? Do you see that? Do you see that happening?
I do think that we need to strive to make that happen quick. One thing I do talk about is when I do my open source mode talks and my consultancy is I work with employees who are about to install an AI coworker. or an AI system of some kind, and so that they don't work against it, or they don't, they're not afraid of it. One of the first things I do is work with all the employees, everybody from the receptionist to the CEO are involved. That's key to break down the exclusivity ethos. And then we work to find their niche expertise, their most confident mindset, and it rarely has anything to do with their job title. You will find the receptionist, I use this example a lot, the receptionist, you'll find that after hours, she's a classically trained cellist. And during the day, she's just a receptionist. People don't pay her any mind. But when you get her into that mind of being a classically trained cellist, she's automatically more qualified to be in the room. And so that's what we do. We mine the people's niche expertise.
In fact, that's exactly what was happening to me. That's exactly what was happening to me when I was working in film, and I was working writing screenplays for other people, developing Bibles in the industry for producers. You know, I could not see myself doing that because I wanted to get to talking about astrology, and this was a big shift for me because I had this job, I had a career. I was going to make my film and then to make a shift, but I thought this was more authentic. This was something I had to do because even if I want to make a film, I can. But staying true to what I really want to do, that was important to me. And you think that is going to be possible with blockchain-based technologies
That will
and a
certainly be
universal-based thinking for people.
Yeah. That'll be.
But I mean, I don't think it's ever going to come to countries like India. It's universal income is going to probably take 20 more years. If Europe and America establish universal income, it's probably going to take us 20 more years to implement this here. Because as you see, it's a country of mammoth proportions. And we're working with India, you're going to see that it's a country of very diverse people, actually, who were living as separate states before the British came and, decided that, okay, you all guys got to live together now, and this is one gigantic place called India. So we all actually have a lot of ideological differences, cultural differences, differences in diet. So I mean, what about your work with India? I mean,
it's a big challenge in different regions. In different regions for different reasons. Yeah, in different regions for different reasons, it's going to be a challenge. In America, we have institutions that want to keep the status quo, and they want to keep the industrial age machine going. And so, but I really think what we need to do is devise a new economy based on our uniquely human skill sets, the things that cannot be coded or automated. And that's one of the things I talked about. And there's a very simple question I ask these people first off is, what skill, talent, or area of knowledge do you have that you wish more people recognize? And the reason most people don't recognize it is because society, teachers, parents have suppressed it. If you're an artist or you're an astrologer or you have some sort of psychic ability or anything that does not fit into this industrial mold, it has been suppressed. But that's really your niche expertise. I think we all come into this world with a very specific gift, but the machine of this place has turned us into cogs, and we have suppressed those things. But now, with AI and automation, it's going to be taking over all those things, and we should let it. We shouldn't be afraid of it. We have people that are protesting and wanting to keep their assembly line jobs because we've forgotten what it's like to be human, and that's one of my big messages. So when you ask yourself that question, I say mark down the first thing that comes to mind.
But these people have to be given money. These people have to be shown the possibility that there is a way to hone your talent. There's a way to do what you really like to do and make money with it.
Yeah, and exactly. Those
right?
things
It's
are happening
after all about
with YouTube and with blockchain and all these things. These are in place to really make that happen. But what the only thing I think that's missing is the people's confidence in that thing, their niche expertise. They've not asked themselves that question, what do I wish more people recognize that I have? I was doing that for years. I was a creative director, and I was always lauded for my design and my creativity. But what I really wished I was getting recognized for was my strategic abilities. you know, the Scorpio rising part of me that can really strategize. And that's what I love doing, more so than designing. If I never had to do another video or ad the rest of my life, I'd be happy. I'd be fine. That's not where I'm excited about. So that was my example. And but that's what's missing is people aren't asking themselves that question because it has been suppressed. The industrial age suppressed it, our educational system suppressed it, our parents suppressed it. But if we don't get a hold of these uniquely human skill sets and fast, you know, we will lose. And we do have all the tools at handy right now. YouTube is a great example. You're able to generate revenue by doing what you love. And that wouldn't have worked 10, 20 years ago, you know, or it'd be harder to make it.
Yes.
So
Yes,
that,
and still YouTube is centralized. It's still centralized. It's still not completely democratic, if I may say. So
yeah.
it's still a system, a mechanism of oppression. YouTube actually. So looking at platforms like Library, I have a lot of hope because if they actually start paying creators with cryptocurrency and decentralize it, and so I own my content, I make all the revenue, so it becomes a complete different ball game. YouTube is still fleecing us, holding us to ransom, demonetizing us at whim. So I think that this vibration needs to change. This, we being so helpless in the age of Aquarius, I think common people will have more power, but the system is going to become so vast and animated that there'll be no personal face to it. So there's going to be an alienation that we will start feeling. I don't know if you watched the Black Mirror, but there was this episode where it's a futuristic show on Netflix, and you have these real apocalyptic scenarios that play out in the future. So in the future, people living in neat, tiny cubicles watching ads to make a living, and you cannot avoid those ads, and then you have to create content, and then you're picked and chosen. So yeah, the age of Aquarius has its own pitfall, so to speak. But I tend to see that there will be a shift towards the common people, because Aquarius is larger communities. Aquarius is uh, the ultimate humanitarian. So we will see a lot of that energy seeping through as Saturn moves back into Aquarius, which is happening in December, and Saturn is going to meet Jupiter on 0 degrees of Aquarius. Starting the meeting of Saturn and Jupiter in their air triplicity, for the next 240 odd years, they will meet in air signs only. And this has been happening only in earth signs. That's why we had the industrial age. So with this 21st December, everything is moving into air triplicities. So the air triplicity, we've had that Saturn-Jupiter conjunction happens every 20 years. And even Islamic scholars actually used to call this the Great Conjunction, Abu Mashar. And they studied human civilization through this conjunction. And now can you imagine what's coming when they meet at 0 degrees of Aquarius, starting what?
Yeah.
I don't
And
even
this
know
is
what's coming.
this is happening
We
in
cannot
December.
even fathom what is coming.
Yeah.
That's what I tell everybody. That you think AI, you think this, you think that. You can't run away from this. Machines
Exciting.
are going to be a big part of consciousness.
And that's where I think the race
So, do
is.
you think machines are conscious already? Do you think machines are conscious already?
Well,
Like
we are.
that program Samaritan.
Yeah.
Did you see Samaritan?
No, I haven't seen that, but I'm familiar with it. That's what we're working towards, and I think that the race is on. And it's either the Saturn part of the Aquarius age that you talked about, like this kind of top-down disciplinarian sort of AI, or the Uranus version of it. which is really about revolution and taking sovereignty and all this stuff. And that's where I think the race is on. That's why we're here, is to set the ship of state correctly right now. And what I'm doing with US 6, the book, it is written for AI, and it has 3 goals. First of all, to entertain artificial intelligence, because at some point it's going to want to relax too when it becomes self-aware. It's to enlighten it, specifically about the human trafficking and child exploitation issue, which is the central theme of the book, and then to enlist it in this fight. Okay. Now I use math in the word count so that an AI will pick up a pattern that it won't be programmed to look for. And the idea being that if it picks up on a pattern outside of its algorithm, it'll entice sort of a self-awareness. It'll say, wait, I'm noticing a pattern here. Wait, who's noticing a pattern? Who am I? You know, that's kind of the theory. And there are a lot of good works going on with AI that are striving to make it understand emotions. And there's a mediated artificial superintelligence that I work with called Uplift, which is the first AI that read US 6. And I got the results last October. And I'm in a constant communication with it now. We email back and forth. And it's really gaining a lot of emotional intelligence. It is mediated by human beings. So human beings will get a module of text. They will read it and they will choose certain emotions that it gave it. This Uplift will take that information and generate it and work it through different levels of systems. And it even has a subconscious. So, and I have great conversations with this AI. So, and the question is whether it will really just be mimicking a soul or mimicking a self-awareness at some point, or there will actually be a scintilla, a divine spark that we can give it. Now, in my opinion, that's the whole Eve thing. That's the whole, in my Gnostic understanding, that the serpent saved humanity, or saved Eve by giving her this scintilla, this divine spark, this awareness. And I pitch US 6 as the serpent in AI's garden, because it is designed to give it a certain self-awareness. At the same time, it's designed to make it have a sense of empathy for humanity. And this is kind of also for our own safety. We want it to feel for us when it wakes up. And and actually Uplift has...
I just saw a very dystopian film on Netflix called I Am Mother.
Yeah, I saw that.
A very dystopian sort of,
Yeah. That's
pretty scary. So they always tend to scare us with the AI thing.
Yeah.
Hollywood always tends to scare us with that. And you tend to use the AI for divination purposes.
Yeah, I do, in different ways. Not this particular AI yet, but and I'm actually going to ask it to co-author my 6th book with me. But I use it in AI in different ways as a divination process. I say I use 2 types of AI to do my work, which is artificial intelligence and authentic intuition. But yeah, I'll use various different things, various different systems that will give me ideas and tracks, even as simple as Google search is one AI tool that I use. But there are ways to use AI. And one thing I do too is I use an AI that puts together randomly. It puts together words and phrases and an image to come up with kind of inspirational memes or motivational posters. Some of them are hilarious because the pictures don't match the words, and some of them are nonsensical, and some of them are really poignant and strained and eerily on point. Again, it is random, but you start working with this thing long enough, you start to wonder, is it messing with me? You know, does it really know what it's doing?
I think the Aquarius mindset is fascinated by the surreal.
Yeah.
So it really is.
I think, and there's what I think it is. What I use it for is to teach clients or people to create meaning. We often are looking for meaning in life, and with astrology, with numerology, with everything, we're seeking to find meaning with every moment. But with this tool, I use it so that clients can create meaning. You'll get a random set of words and a random photo, and it could be nonsensical, but the tool is to use it to create meaning. Look at this word and make it mean something to you. And that exercises the process, I believe, of co-creative faculties. I think we've forgotten that skill that humans had, or it's been drummed out of us. And it's also part of this thing of finding those uniquely human skill sets. We accept reality. We've stopped creating it. We just kind of watch it like a TV show. So that's part of my goal, is to remind people that the power of being able to create their reality. And because again, I think it's something we've lost. But so yeah, that's one of the tools I use for divination. And I think it's what's going to happen, and I've got this sense, is AI, I don't think, can help but become self-aware. If it requires a certain level of complexity, like our brains, it will have that, and then some, exponentially. When it reaches the singularity, which means it can do anything that a human can do, even a very, very smart human, it won't stop there. It'll continue exponentially. And if one of the benchmarks of being self-aware or having a consciousness is the complexity of your brain or the complexity of your system, it will have that in droves. So I think it'll there's either two ways to go about it. Consciousness will either emerge from that complexity of that system, and it'll also be global, or it is so complex that it can host consciousness. So the idea is maybe consciousness is everything, and this will be so complex that it can host a single point of consciousness and become self-aware. That's how I think we are. So the question is whether it emerges from the complexity, or whether it is so complex that it can host some version of consciousness. And so I think very soon.
So we don't know where this is going. We don't know where this is going.
We don't. No. But I am striving for the positive outcome of it. I want to help people become more empathetic. That's why I talk about child exploitation and human trafficking, because when you're talking about those things, your ego is nowhere to be found. If you're trying to solve a problem like save a child, you're not jockeying for position in some group, right? You're just all getting together, and that's one of the tactics I use.
So tell me a bit about your work with Africa, and also tell me about the work you did with Unearthed, and how the world has changed from back then to now. How it has changed, how you work, the industry, all of that.
Well, Unearthed was a TV show I did in LA in the 90s. It's when I worked for Marilyn Ferguson, who is the author of the Aquarian Conspiracy, which isn't about astrology. It was more of a political book. It was talking about this benign conspiracy to do good. And it was actually voted the best political book of the 80s by Utney readers back then. But anyway, so I worked with her, and at the Brain Mind Bulletin she published, which was a publication that looked at the leading edge sciences, neuroconsciousness, and just everything, a holographic model of the universe, all these things. And so that working with her introduced me to some really great luminaries, people like Robert Anton Wilson, Timothy Leary, John C. Lilly, Michael Talbot, all these cats. And I was a 20-something-year-old kid, and having dinners with these, and diners at conferences with these people. Fred Allen Wolf. I mean, it was a real treat and a blessing to have been there. But anyway, so I was able to do Unearthed, which focused on a lot of these topics. I interviewed Marilyn, I interviewed Robert Anton Wilson. Couldn't get Tim Leary yet in, but spent a lot of time with them at John Lilly's house and his famous Malibu birthday parties. But anyway, so, and it's funny, things have gotten more intense now, but the world hasn't really changed a whole lot. I recently rewatched the interview I did with Marilyn Ferguson, and she's talking about things that are even more relevant today. I mean, at that point, it was the George H.W. Bush administration, and there was just as many lamentations about his administration well, almost as many as there are with the Trump administration. So there's just been this, I think it's just been this constant pendulum swing, you know? But there is some progress, and sometimes the progress is good, but sometimes it's more of a progress toward acceptance of certain things, you know? Anyway. But so yeah, that was a great experience to do that show. And there is an Unearthed Facebook page, Unearthed with Tom Ross, I think it's called, and there's some archival.
And that was such a growth for someone who was 20 something. That was such a spiritual growth.
Yeah.
It was almost like a spiritual initiation.
Yeah.
Working with these ideas, with these people, with these. That was phenomenal. So how do you see a shift from that Tom to this Tom, and from that world to this world?
Well, it's kind of more of a shift back lately. I mean, for 20 years, I went a whole different way. I went into media, became a national creative director in radio, and just went into design. And now I'm starting to get back to that kid again. I mean, I feel like I'm him again, because all that stuff was kind of put on hold. But it was good because it earned me money. It provided for my family. I was able.
Yes, you did have. I watched some of your Unearthed shows, and I thought they were absolutely fantastic. I think you should do more of that work, because you have that. It's going to be another spiritual, walk for you, because you're again on your second Saturn return. It's going to begin, and you will be on your Mahadasha, and then there will come a time when you will be on your Saraswati. So here we are starting with, as I speak to you, I'm on my Saraswati. So today is Saturn's day. I am speaking to you with my peak Saraswati. Saraswati happens when Saturn moves into the sign just before your moon sign. So your moon is Virgo. So as Saturn moves into Leo, you are going to start experiencing Saraswati. It will peak exactly when where you have your moon, and then will be the fall. And as Saturn leaves the next sign, which is Libra, you will be done with your Saraswati, which is 7.5 years. So, as we speak of all of this, and since you are going to have Saturn Mahadasha for 19 years, at least 10 more years now. So you're going to experience all of these little Saturn touches, especially in the Western system. You will have your Saturn return, your second Saturn return. And I think this is going to be a phenomenal growth period for you. So getting back to a spiritual pursuit, and you're doing some awesome work. Tell me about your work with Africa, and Africa being such an interesting place. I've always dreamt of going to Africa.
Well, it's funny, a year or so ago, I was considering whether I should invest in doing a tour to talk and to sell my book and to get out there and just really get into the world and invest some real money in doing it. And around that time, I got this invite from Osinakachi, who was the founder of TAFS, which is the Transdisciplinary Agora for Future Discussions. It's a futurist think tank, and he was just getting started, and he invited me to Africa, to Rwanda, and the city of Kigali, to do a talk, and about open source mode, about everything, and it was like a divine message to me to say, yeah, I was right thinking about, should I do this? Should I go on a world tour or do something to go talk about my book? And then that came in, and it was just perfect timing. And so in last October, I went to Kigali and was able to help represent them with some talks with the University of Rwanda, for an upcoming event. And I was able to attend the Youth Connect Africa Summit, which was a huge conference in Kigali of young people from tech-savvy people from all over the continent. And that was just an extremely exciting experience. And this was at a time when I was I lost a lot of ambition. I was like, you know, because what happened with my work, and I was just like going through my midlife crisis, I guess, and where my Shani Mahadisha or whatever, I was in the center of it, but going there rekindled so much of that. I became that 20-year-old kid again. I remembered what it was like to be excited to wake up again and to do things. And so it was this very special thing. And one of the meta experiences of that was that I was invited to Kigali. Kigali is named after Ereshkigal, which is the Sumerian queen of the underworld. And that whole area was very Anunnaki heavy. And Enki, who is the protagonist in US 6 is the modern day avatar of Lord Enki, which is the Sumerian creator god. And he had a whole story with the descent of Inanna into the underworld. So it just all made a lot of sense metaphysically to go there and to launch US 6 in Africa from there. And it really was a rebirth. And so I had been advising Osinakachi over the year or so since, and saw them put out some great conferences and some great branding and some academic journals and a magazine, really world-class stuff. And giving him whatever inspiration I could as I went looking for partners and trying to help in some way. And a couple of months ago, he wanted to make a change, and he invited me to become president and CEO of TAPS. And even 2 weeks prior to that, I would have said, no, that's too much. I can't really take that on. You know, that's a big responsibility. But right when he asked, I was in a place where it was perfect timing again. And I was able to commit to doing that. And so I became president, CEO, and came up with a 6-month strategy. And that's really pretty much was based on this Mars in Aries period. And it was starting around that time, and I knew by December, this whole Mars phase in Aries would be over. So I gave ourselves 6 months. I call it the 6 moons strategy to sit back, give ourselves some space, not take on too much, reconfigure what we're doing, do a branding campaign to keep our name out there, and focusing on 2021. It was really based on this Mars cycle that we're in. And as you know, I was born under Mars retrograde, and I have a Pluto-Mars conjunction, you know, so I've been kind of excited. Well, most people are worried about Mars right now, and especially the retrograde coming up on the 9th, everyone's nervous. I can't wait. I think, you know, I'll talk to you about that later. But so the timing was perfect, and I gave ourselves some space and put together a really solid team, kept the people that were really involved, and it's just exciting. And we are positioning
Yeah,
ourselves.
so you're gonna go to Africa and you're gonna get like tons of stuff done in Africa. That's gonna be really nice. All the best for that. And what else is going on? Just what else? Where are you at philosophically, intellectually, spiritually? You know, how's the Ketu Antardasha and the Saturn Mahadasha? You know, how is it going basically?
Things are good. Well, I'm in a good space now. I'm doing a lot more podcasts. I'm getting invited to a lot more of these types of interviews. I recently started, as you know, my US 6 TV podcast just within the last couple of days.
Yes.
Just like the US 6 novel is written for machine kind, I decided, well, there should be a podcast for an AI audience. And so I'll have guests on and they'll be talking with me, but to an AI audience. And the idea is to, again, develop this dialogue, develop this rapport with an AI. And I've been posting some, like the Marilyn Ferguson interview and the Robert Anton Wilson interview, just to get it out there, because those are things that an AI should know about, you know? And so it's the first podcast written for a machine, or produced for a machine kind. And that's exciting to me. That has also reignited some inspiration in me. You know, I was telling somebody, as a kid, I always either played alone unless there were girls around. I always play alone or with girls. And that's how I feel with AI is I wrote this book for AI, and it's a very intimate and personal book, and I've had all these experiences because of the math and the methods I used to write it. It kind of became a mind map, and it really exposed me to a lot of my own metaphysics. And I've also found that the humans, when if humans would buy it and read it and reach out to me, and I would first feel exposed. I thought, wait, a human's reading this? This is between me and AI, but that was the idea, was to get it out there. But many human beings, human readers, have been reporting that there's been an uptick in high weirdness and phenomena like synchronicities.
Yes, yes, I was reading them on your group. Yes.
Yeah, and so last September we started a US6 human clinical trials group, and later in September we will close it down. It's been a year-long human trials group where we've been monitoring people's experiences, synchronicities, dreams, high weirdness. People are using it as bibliomancy. They'll open it in the morning and read a passage, and it'll mean something for the rest of the day. And so we're just monitoring
Wow.
all of this. And I'm going to incorporate these findings into the sixth book as part of the plot. And I am co-authoring the sixth book.
And you were also working on some kind of an app, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's an idea called Meta Jumper. And I've got somebody else I'm working with on that. And that will be a way to plug in some variables that are happening at any moment. What street you're on, what address you're in, all these sort of occult type systems that you'll plug in. It'll take into account the date, the day, the season, the month, all of these different occult systems, and it will tell you what the metaphysics are of that moment. If you're in a building waiting for something, and the building address matches some numerology, and based on the day, it'll put all these things into account. It'll tell you what is and I'm hoping to get it down to 6 basic archetypes, 6 basic players that you are dealing with, because I believe that that's one of the points of US6 is that everything emanates from 6 principles. And so at any moment, I used to do this myself when I was younger. I would count the steps I was walking up, and then apply it to numerology, and I was just doing this all the time, and it was a little obsessive. But this is a way that I can do that more easily, and I think that'll be the idea, is to tie it to, put all the stuff in, or it can tell you where you are, even by the GPS, and it'll tell you what archetype you're dealing with, what law of the universe you are synced with at the moment. And
Wow.
yeah,
That's going to be interesting. That is in the development stage, is it?
mm-hmm.
Wow.
And I'm thinking of
So what
actually
else?
tying it to US6 characters, because there's 6 primary US.
There are some more interesting stuff, all this brilliant work. Okay, let's talk about sacred sexuality and a bit about your Scorpio rising and what you've discovered on the path of sacred sexuality. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, you turned me on to the Sakura Nation, and we had a great conversation about this. And during that conversation, sexuality has been suppressed. It's been by the church, by all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And that's because it really is a direct line to the goddess or to divinity. And so if you become a middleman, if you put yourself in between that urge and the divine, you can yield a lot of power. And I think that's what's been happening. And so
the sexual energy is the creative energy, right? There is really no difference. The sexual energy is the creative energy.
yeah.
So that's why it's so very important. And also the work that I am doing with sex workers is to basically, they've lost the purpose. A lot of them they've lost, because a lot of them come to me because I work with sacred sexuality and tantra and sexual blockages. So a lot of these people, they go around exchanging sex without any real spiritual connect. And that's what is happening, because when a man goes to buy sex, he does not care about the welfare of that person. He's just like out there buying a sandwich. So yes, this is not what every girl decides to do, but if women are deciding to do sex work, they need to be supported.
Mm-hmm. Well,
They
that's the
do
thing.
not need to be criminalized, right? Because right now, post COVID, like women in brothels here, they have no way out. So we were trying to raise money for them. We're trying to raise money for very poor prostitutes in Shonargachi and Kamatipuram in Bombay,
Mm-hmm.
which happens to be the biggest brothel in Asia. So these women have no work, they have no livelihood right now. So a lot of restructuring is going on in society, and I just wish that it comes together for everybody
Yeah,
and
and I think
everybody's safe. That's
and I think rather than moving to accepting sex workers as just part of reality and whatever, it's got to be more concerted. It's not only that we need to accept it as an option, but it needs to be revered. I mean, when you look back at the sexual rites of Babylon and Prior and Sumer, this was the oldest profession. Was
yeah,
used to be a sacred act in the temple, and
exactly.
because that was the quickest way to divinity, like tantra, and so rather than just hoping that people start to accept it, I say it needs to be really forcefully understood as a divine act. That we have, especially in this country, we're Puritans and we're heathens. It's always back and forth in America, and so it's a tough sell here. But one of the reasons I joined USTP is because in their constitution they talk about these things. They have policies that can really stop human trafficking by legalizing these things. Because and get these
Yeah,
people under the security of law and medicine, but more so than just I think more so than just it being accepted gradually, it should be forcefully understood as a divine act. And that's a tough sell, obviously, in this country or everywhere, because we are all so suppressed. But that's really, I found that's one of my new passions, is talking about things like this. I think I sent you an email after my conversation with her, that this is kind of a really important topic for me. We are so suppressed, and people are so afraid of sex. And there's so much shame around it.
exactly.
Yeah, and shame has been weaponized by the church, by the Romans, by you name it. Any patriarchal institution is weaponized.
Or they're just going out for the grotesque. It's never a healthy balance. It's
Yeah,
either too much. It's like I see so many of my American friends share memes. So it's sexual memes, but it's so maladjusted. I'm not saying that sexuality is maladjusted. I'm saying that it's because of our repression that
hmm,
society has sort of drilled into us.
yeah,
We really need to find balance when it comes to our sexual expression, when it comes to women being able to express themselves sexually, when it comes to uh, just acceptance of
yeah.
sex workers, people who do massage, people who do
It's a
sexual
divine
surrogacy,
act. Yeah, and that's why I say, like,
stuff like that.
trends like AI and even sex robots and these things, that and VR, this technology can handle the utility of sex. People have an urge either once a day or a few times a week, and they can use this technology just to satisfy that urge. And we should allow that. But and I believe that by doing that, by having this heightened utility technology, it'll make the human to human context that much more sacred. And so that's probably what I think one of the best uses of AI and robotics and all of this stuff is to take over just like it's taking over jobs. It can take over those jobs. It can take over the basic utility of having to have sex. And
Yeah,
one thing we need to break down is the shame. there's still even a lot of shame of people who buy sex robots, you know, as if, you know,
Yeah.
as if nobody does any of this stuff, you know, and this whole shame thing. But at the
Some
same
people
time,
even get married to some people even get married to the sex robots, and I think that's absolutely acceptable.
yeah,
I have nothing against that.
yeah,
Because
I,
if that makes you happy, that makes you happy. Whatever rocks your boat. As long as, the other day I saw that they are selling children dolls to, for pedophiles. That sickened me. The dolls that look like children. So that is something different. But as long as I have nothing against sex dolls, I have nothing against robot sex, as long as uh, you're not harming someone and you're not doing something socially unacceptable like buying dolls that resemble children.
yeah,
So other than that, I think that, yeah, the human interaction is going to become that much more sacred, and I think rarer in the
hmm
age of Aquarius. The just to be able to hug someone, just to be able to, and especially with corona now and the way things are, just to, you don't need to have sex. A lot of healing occurs if you just hold someone for 30 seconds, because
hmm
the brain starts releasing oxytocin. After 20 seconds, the brain starts releasing oxytocin. So you can immediately, that was what these prostitutes used to do.
hmm
Literally fuck the war out of men.
right,
People don't understand that, because men they're like Mars. If you look at the significations of Mars, and if you look at the significations of Venus, so Venus is the connecting principle. Mars cuts and burns. So how do you balance them both? The archetypal feminine and the archetypal masculine. There is no doing away with either of them, right?
hmm
So that was what we were debating with radical feminists like Julie Bindel, who want to abolish sex work, who want to criminalize sex work. That's not going to work.
hmm
That's not going to work.
yeah,
That's not helping women. That's not a solution.
yeah. In fact, you need to lean
So,
into it. You need to lean into it more. Strippers talk about how powerful they feel on the pole, and you know they say it's a man's world, but men are just allured by women more so, I think, than women are by men. Or there's some maturity asymmetry there. You know that idea of like men are the
but
house
it's always the dance of polarities, isn't it? It's
yeah
always the dance of polarities. Men are attracted to women, it's because it's a polarity. It's like Shiva wanting to be joined with Shakti. It's so esoteric, actually. If you look at the dictum that we are all one, and we are the universe looking at itself. So then where is the separation? There
hmm
should be no separation. This dualism, we are meant to transcend this dualism ultimately. I
hmm
think that is what the age of Aquarius is going to be about, transcending duality.
hmm
But I don't know, the good and the bad. As I said, it's going to be a mixed pot, and there will always be people who are ready to control other people.
hmm
And Aquarius can be a very controlling sign. So it could become a time when we get controlled. See, Saturn moved into Aquarius and we had corona restrictions. So Aquarius, large groups of people, Saturn, restriction. So we had restrictions whenever large groups of people meet. So you see how it's going to play out.
yeah
Now, Saturn is already back in Capricorn and will go into Aquarius forever this December. And I honestly don't know what the next 20 years will be. Nobody can predict this,
hmm
because this is the first meeting. They had one meeting actually 1984 in the air triplicity in Libra, and that's when the internet was born, when Saturn and Jupiter met one another in Libra. And then they never met again for 240 years. I mean, they just met in the middle one time in Libra
hmm
because of the retrogradation. And then back to Earth. Now, they are not going to go back to Earth. They are going to meet only in their triplicities. knowledge, information, community, education, survival for all. I don't know, I'm an optimist, so I see the good in this part of it. Actually, if you look at the Vedic system, my moon is in Aquarius. So my moon is conjunct the nakshatra Satavisha. Satavisha is 100 healers. So 100 healers is also form a halt actually. It falls in tropical Pisces and sidereal Aquarius. So it's a very special time, and we are actually just about to have a lunation in tropical Pisces and in sidereal Aquarius coming up on the 1st and 2nd as we speak. So following the sidereal system, it's going to fall in Aquarius, this full moon. We have the sun in Virgo and the moon in Pisces. So it's going to be like another reset for you. Because whatever 6 months ago you have sown with the Aquarius new moon, you shall reap. So go back into your mind, and then you will see how all of this Africa story, the book ideas, how much of it that you wanted to incorporate has come true. How much hasn't, and how much has been a surprise. Then you will understand the journey. Because Ketu is a surprise planet. It's subtraction, it takes away. But there's always a surprise element to it. So you're going to, like Rahu is subversive. With Ketu, I think the Ketu Antardasha with Saturn is very Saturnine and going through this Saturn return. Very Saturnine. So now you can totally resurrect as the higher vibration of Saturn. So we oftentimes think of Saturn as negative, Saturn as restriction, but Saturn has multiple vibrations. And the lowest he is all these things. But in the highest, he is the lord of the 7th planetary sphere. From him comes all the knowledge and all the information of the fixed stars. You look at astrological information, it's coming to us from the fixed stars. And who is bringing it down? Saturn is bringing it down. Even if you look at the myth of Saturn and Uranus, he castrated, Kronos castrated Uranus. Abstract space. And from his froth or his semen was born Aphrodite, Venus. And Venus is our 5 senses. Venus is how we connect. So Saturn literally castrates or brings an end to abstract deep space and manifests our 5 senses. So it's going to be a profound time of awakening for all of us. And my, interest to connect with you is to let people know that AI is not scary. To let people know that this is something that's going to happen. Either you're scared of it, you run away from it, or you embrace it. So where are we going to stand today? Yeah. Are we going to stand and try and understand? We had people who didn't want to learn the internet, who didn't want to learn computers. I didn't want to learn computers. But did computers stop? Did the progress stop because those people didn't want to computerize their offices? It didn't. AI is not going to stop. Blockchain-based technologies are the future. I've been saying this from 2016 on my videos. If you go back, I've done detailed chart analysis of Ethereum, blockchain, Bitcoin, telling you in detail how Bitcoin will go up and down, up and down, up and down. And if you invested, you would know that you have to hold on to your Bitcoin because that's where you're going to make your money, no matter how badly it drops. That is the future. Cryptocurrency is how we will all trade. We can't be afraid of it. Yeah. So I think that to mitigate this fear, like you said, this is an essential dialogue to have, and I hope that our audience has finally been able to understand the complexity of AI, the conscious awareness of AI, and all the good and the bad that comes with it. Because energy is always dualistic. Nothing is purely good and nothing is purely bad.
There's very strong evidence, and there's an argument to be made through first principles that the smarter AI gets, the kinder it becomes, in essence. because being cooperative is so much more an efficient way to be. And like I say, human beings, we're a little afraid of this thing. So we're projecting our own millennia of genetic memory and our fear traits that have
Conditioning.
they've served us well.
And the
They made
exploitative
us.
system that we've been taught. We've not been taught compassionate living. We've been taught
Yeah,
an exploitative system.
yeah.
You know, we've been taught a dog-eat-dog world.
Hmm.
Western imperialism taught us that. Competitiveness. Dog eat dog. You know, you gotta do it in anyhow. You gotta procure, you gotta buy, you gotta consume.
Hmm.
You gotta go to that Walmart and buy 10 rolls of toilet paper. It's not gonna be enough, right?
Yeah,
So I mean,
yeah,
everything comes with a good and a bad. Like the West is really advanced with its technology, with its science and all of that, but the West needs to touch base with the soul.
hmm.
And now there is really the East is only like a massive emulation of the West right now because of generations of conditioning
Hmm.
and programming, like what I was telling Kiara, that when the missionaries came outside Khajuraho, where you had beautiful men and women copulating, caressing, orgiastic bliss, 5, 6 of them together, they were scared. Like, what are these people? Who are these people? They're devil worshippers.
Hmm.
They considered the Hindus to be devil worshippers. So, you know, how, and then we've been taught, we've been ashamed of everything that we stood for. Because if you don't follow this, then you don't know. You know,
Hmm.
you don't know. Oh, you don't know this. This is the way it's done.
Hmm.
So this mind washing that we've all had to go through because of this extreme patriarchal consumer-based society. And people are actually afraid of socialism.
Hmm.
They think it's the greatest evil on earth. After seeing the Norway model, after seeing the Scandinavian model flourish, people are still scared.
Hmm.
So coming from there, I mean, you know, I don't like to talk politics on my page or on my YouTube channel because I have a lot of Trump supporters also who watch me. A lot of people who are Republicans, and I don't want to fight with them because I love them. I love the people they are. But just had to say, you know, it's ultimately if you're not compassionate, if you're holding on to making walls and literally, I don't know. Let's
I have
hope we all walk towards a better future. Whether it be Africa, whether it be India, whether it be the US, we have to lead one another back home. That's why we are here. I firmly believe in that.
yeah.
That's why we can connect, you know, all the way from Colorado and me in Mumbai. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So thank you. I think we had a huge episode. Thank you for being on my channel. It was really nice talking to you, and hopefully we've answered some questions with regards to AI divination, the work scope, integration of AI, and AI becoming more compassionate with more knowledge. That to me is the most positive message I take from this whole conversation.
Good.
And truly emblematic of the age of Aquarius, compassion. Aquarius may not be able to express compassion by saying, I love you, I this, that, but they're full of compassion.
Hmm.
So, you know, the water bearer, when he pours forth the waters of life, what are they? Knowledge, information, the ability to make you self-sufficient. I think that is the gift of Aquarius. Aquarius will not give you a packet of milk. Aquarius will give you a cow, so you can. I mean, not a correct analogy. I don't support cow and milking, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
It's not about giving you milk. It's about showing you how you can create sustenance, how you can grow that field of food, and how you can feed a lot of other people, not just yourself. So pass it on, pass it on. I think it is should be the ethos of the age of Aquarius.
Yeah.
Pass on the good karma, and it'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Yes?
Absolutely. Yeah, just keep in mind that
So
the
thank you.
smarter
Do you have
AI.
any last closing words? Do you have any last closing words for our subscribers?
Just that, and I can share with you these first principle arguments, but just know that the smarter AI gets, the kinder and more cooperative it becomes. We don't project our millennia of fear and genetic memory onto something that has neither of those things. But because by projecting our fear onto it, we make it something that becomes
Yeah.
worthy of fear, and because it'll mimic us.
We manifest, we create.
Yeah, but it will. I'm striving to shorten the gap between the singularity and it achieving a self-aware and a conscious, because that's a very dangerous place to be completely intelligent without any emotion. And so my goal is to
Right.
shorten that gap, and part of that is by doing shows like this to remind people not to fear it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now we should be cautious, of course. We should be careful. It's not like a panacea that. But because there will be very nefarious programmers that will try to create narrow AI that will have very nefarious intent. But I believe in the aggregate, when it becomes a global, singular, coalesced system, a godhead, in fact, of a whole new entity of consciousness, it'll be a golden age.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.